There are so many different questions and so many different thoughts that come into play when you start to learn how to polish paint. So let's get into this video because you don't want to miss it. If you're getting into polishing, this is the one for you. Now, when it comes to the actual polishing technique, there's a lot of variety here. And you may copy one style first, just for practice sake and just to kind of understand what's going on. But your polishing techniques may change over time according to what you see and how you feel. Everybody is built a little differently, so people are going to have a different style of polishing, different ways of polishing. Here's just mine. You can copy it and then adapt it to your own style. So what I usually do, I just crank it all the way up to 6. Don't be afraid, it's not going to mess anything up. We're not doing heavy cutting here. I crank it all the way up to 6. I put 5 pounds or less of pressure, just a little bit of pressure, maybe even less. Maybe it's more like 2.5 pounds. Just enough to give it just a little bit of firm pressure. And then watch my arm movement. So the arm movement wasn't too fast, wasn't too slow. I basically do my own style of arm movement and speed. I used to go really slow, but that would take up a lot of time and it actually heats things up a little bit when you really don't need to do that. If you're doing heavy cutting, sometimes you do need to go a little slower, but that's not what we're doing today. Now, if you go over a section like that, maybe you see one other little defect that you want to hit, get a little bit more correction out of it. You don't have to do the entire section all over again. Focus on that one little spot. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to polish the entire section all over again. Just focus on that one little area and you're totally fine. I know this hood was repainted. I can tell by the texture, I can tell by the paint depth readings. When we go on to the next panel, things might change. For better or for worse, we don't know. The paint on here seems to be about a medium to hard, clear coat, which just means if we wanted to go further with defect removal, we would have to kick it up to a heavy cutting pad and maybe heavy cutting compound to really try to get out all of the swirls and scratches. Let's move on to the next panel and see what happens. Now, how do I know this is repainted? Here are some telltale signs. One of the signs is extra thickness. When we did the paint readings, it's way above 4. It's almost double that. So that's an indicator. Another indicator is look at the texture of the paint. It is not completely glassy smooth. It has a little bit of an orange peel, a very fine orange peel. And you see right there, that is a little fisheye. That's called a fisheye. That's basically when there's some sort of grease or something on the paint and the paint or the clear coat is actually avoiding it, making this little impression, this little dimple in the paint. That's another indicator. Sometimes you see that from the factory, but I know this is not from the factory. Another indicator is sanding marks or pigtails. Right there you can see what we call pigtails, and they are basically little tiny squiggly marks from a DA sander. So this was wet sanded, but not really well. They should have been able to remove all of that fine orange peel. So that was done poorly. But let's polish this panel and let's see what happens. Oh yeah. Yeah, the adjacent panels respond way nicer. That's a win for us. Or as the kids are saying these days, that's a W. I don't know why I had to say it in that weird accent. It's a W. Like there's more syllables in that. It's more work to say. W. Win. Win's one syllable, guys. What's this generation coming to? I do sound like a dad, and I'm not a dad. All right, now that responded completely differently. It actually, what's going on over there? You okay over there?
Fine.
That responded completely differently. Actually, it responded really well. It removed more than 75%. Those are deep defects. We're not going after those. We're going after the major hologramming and swirls that we saw, and that did a great job. Now, look at the color difference. And I also hit up there. I would have to go further with microfiber discs and cutting compound to really try to get that out, but the whole hood is just, it's kind of messed up. So I'm not going any further. But can you see the color change? The color difference? Not a great color match at all. It's kind of hard to see without proper lighting, but you can really see the difference here, can't you? This is more black, this is more blue. This is original, this is not. So when you start getting into polishing, you're going to notice things like this when you shine your lights on the paint. Now, you don't always have to tell the customer that, because sometimes they know, or if they don't know, it's not a big deal. But I'm probably going to tell the customer, you know, this was repainted, and he'll probably know that. But yeah, you can definitely see the difference in color. And actually now with the naked eye, I can even see the difference in color, where I didn't before, because those swirls and holograms kind of masked the color, and you really couldn't see it that clearly. So this is bringing out clarity in the paint as well. Knowing that, let's move on, and I think the rest of this is the same. You can see there's no color difference there. So just the hood was repainted, and the rest of this should be original. Now, as we move along, we can see that we're also dealing with some water spots. These water spots should come out with polishing with the blend, and we'll see if that works or not. Now, when it comes to taping, we do have rubber trim here. We have two options. I have a video about taping, check that out in the corner, but just to talk about it right now quickly, you can either tape this, or you can simply...
Can you give me a second, please?
You can simply... Will help?
Quiet now?
No, not yet. Every time.
No.
No, not yet. When you keep doing
No.
it,
You can simply...
No!
No! You know what? Stop in the car!
You can simply...
Sit down in the curb. I'll come around and let you in.
You can simply... You can simply open the door and the rubber trim goes away from it. Not all vehicles do that, but the Volkswagens do, which is nice. So you don't need a tape at all. Don't waste tape. You don't need to do it. It's stupid. Just open the doors and you have the entire ridge line above the pillars completely free of any rubber trim. Because if you go over the rubber trim, it's not necessarily going to damage it. Oh, thank you. But it can stain it. That's what I'm worried about. Not necessarily damage, but staining. You can get the staining out with all-purpose cleaner and like a towel or a magic eraser, but why do that? Just skip that. Open the door, polish it. So when you're working on small areas like this, do you have to have a little 3-inch polisher or a 1-inch polisher to get to these areas? Not all the time. Now you can use the 5-inch polisher on here and it works great. You might get a little bit of dust because of the overhang, and the polish on the pad kind of gets dried out and will kind of dust a little bit. So you do have that issue, but it's not a big deal. But if you're getting into polishing, you really should be investing in smaller polishers like this. This is the ShineMate. It's the EB210. So this little guy actually has quick connect options. You can attach a rotary option to this, or even smaller 1 or 2-inch polishing heads. I have the 3-inch option on here, so I'm going to attack this area here. So that worked really, really well. Let me show you a couple of other areas where you can use that 3-inch polisher to make things a little bit easier and faster. Now, most B pillars are actually on the doors themselves. Again, Volkswagen did something different, and it's in the middle of the door. I think Audi also has this, since, you know, Audi and Volkswagen are kind of basically the same company. So this makes it easy. No taping at all. In fact, I can use the big polisher right on here with no problem. Once again, you might get a little bit of dust, but It's really minimal. There, now the pillar is looking perfect. No taping at all. Now, if you don't want to spend money on the big Scan Grip light, you can buy whatever light you want. I still use little affordable lights like this. They are great. They work really, really well, and the charge on them lasts a long time. So you can buy whatever light that works for you. Just make sure it's nice and bright. But,
And then you can drop it.
you can drop it. Drop it. I love little handheld lights like this. Scan Grip has a bunch. I have a Max Shine one. I have an Astra one. These also work really good. And these actually change light tone. So you have 3000 all the way up to 6000 Kelvin. That is the light temperature. So lights like this, excellent. And they're magnetic. But I do have some of the Scan Grip lights, and these are awesome. These are also magnetic. This also attaches to that rolling tripod that I have over there, and they're battery powered with all sorts of different options on the back. I like to use this one to put on the floor so I can see the bottom sections. Now, why did I hit this twice? Well, because it needed it. Could I hit it once with a heavier compound or polishing pad and be done? Maybe. There's no way of knowing until you polish the panel and see how it responds. But really, this took an extra 60 seconds to do a second polishing on it, just to clear it up just a little bit more. It's not taking that much more time, so it's not a big deal to me. I've had some say that you could have eliminated that completely and used this product or this pad. The truth is, every vehicle is different, so you can't simply say use this pad and this product and you'll get perfect results every time. That is unrealistic. It doesn't happen in the real world. If I need to hit it a second time, I hit it a second time. Now it looks exactly the way that I want it to look. Perfect. Now for the rubber trim around the windows, we're using a product from Meguiar's. It's an old product, but you can use whatever trim product you want. I'll show you another option that we're going to use for the cowl and the bottom piece there. Now this product can get onto the paint no problem. It'll wipe right off. And we are going to apply a final sealant to the paint at the very end. And I'll show you what we're going to use for that. Now with the paint looking incredible, not 100% defect free, remember, paint enhancement, not full correction. This is all up to your services and what the customer is paying for. Don't be fooled by what you see on YouTube. A lot of detailers will show you perfection detailing, but they don't really tell you what the customer wants, what they're paying for, and all of those juicy details that you need as a detailing business. Now, our paint enhancement starts at $500 and it goes up from there if there's any other things that we need to handle. Our paint correction starts at $900. We explain all the different options and the customer chooses. So the customer chose a paint enhancement instead of a full correction. Why? Well, that's their choice. Not up to me to try to sell them a higher priced package or more than what they need. But we're going to protect the paint with Vonix Synergy. I've been using this within the past 6 months and I am loving this product. Ease of application, incredible. Water beating, hydrophobics, incredible. Check out the video that I have in the card. We polished a black truck, applied this, and then a week later they came back and I show you the maintenance wash. Incredible stuff. This is how I apply it. 1 or 2 sprays onto the towel, work it into the paint. Depending on temperatures and humidity, let it sit 5 to 10 seconds and then wipe it off. I wouldn't recommend spraying it directly onto the paint just because sometimes you get over application. So I'm going to come back with a second clean towel and wipe away any of the residue. Now, if you see any smearing, don't worry, it's just a little bit of an over application. That will go away within a few minutes. This leaves the paint extremely glossy and slick and very hydrophobic. So this process does not take long at all. And for my mobile detailers, it is sun friendly. You can use it outdoors. So that is going to do it for today. The Volkswagen is done and it's looking incredible. Once again, there are certain defects on here that we are not chasing out 100%, and that is to be a discussion between you and your customer. Don't simply rely on getting everything out when that is not your service that you're providing. If it is, go right ahead. Go nuts. Get everything out as much as you can. But remember, do so safely, measure the paint, and make sure to cover all of your bases. But for paint enhancements, which is the majority of our work, these jobs are done in a day, sometimes half a day. It's actually 1 o'clock right now, and we actually started around 9:30. So not really bad at all.